Hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday. I'm coming to you live this week talking about goal setting. One of the things that I will start off with saying is this is something that I've been pretty guilty of in the past. Ha- Not always the past, sometimes is right now. I've got to be honest. And part of that is just like getting into my day without really setting any kind of goals for the day or letting weeks go by without setting goals. Part of this is, making sure that I'm clear for myself that this is a goal is to set goals, right? Because if we don't set goals and we don't know what we're tracking and we don't know what our metrics to success are, and we don't really have much of a plan, things tend to, and you probably will totally resonate with this too. Like you sit down at your desk and the next thing you know, you're in your emails, or maybe it happens when you're on your phone. You wake up, you look at your phone, and it's like you're instantly swept up into this uh current of just like stuff, right? Like ideas and things that need to be done and questions that need to be answered and things that need to be done for clients and the team. And it can feel really like sometimes it feels like a lazy river and sometimes it feels like whitewater rapids, whitewater rafting, but there's always a current. It's very, I mean, I would say it's at like a 0% that I sit down at the desk and I feel like, well, I don't sit down at the desk and go, there's nothing to do. What am I going to do today? Oh, let me sit down and write my goals. And so we need to be uh, vigilant and dedicated to having specific times in our day, our week, having specific times throughout the year that we actually sit down and we do goal setting. Because I promise you, if you don't do it, like everything else, the current that I was talking about, whether it's a lazy river or whether you're whitewater rafting, that current is going to pick you up and it's going to take you. And it doesn't give a crap about whether you sat down and you did your goals. One of the things that I want to say, just in terms of some tips and tricks around goal setting, is the for me, the number one thing, the thing that feels the most important for myself, and I think for me sharing my tips here, is to make sure that everything has a purpose to it. Everything that you do in your business, everything that you produce, all of your funnels, your courses, your one-to-one services, the price points, the what you put on social media, the types of platforms that you're on social media. Are you LinkedIn or are you Instagram? Are you starting a TikTok? Do you have a podcast? Everything that you do should have a purpose, number one. You should be able to pretty clearly, if I was to ask you, like, why do you have a podcast? Why do you post on Instagram? You should be able to communicate pretty easily, even if it's like one or to three things. Like, what is the purpose of having that? If you can, then you need to do a little soul searching or asking, why are you doing it just because you feel like you have to? And the other thing that kind of relates to that and around the goal setting too is like, what's the purpose of why you are doing what you're doing? And how are you tracking the success there? So if it's Instagram, how are you tracking it? If it's funnels, if it's Facebook ads, how are you tracking every part of what you're doing? So for me, that's always the starting point, is making sure that I know the purpose of everything that we're doing and have a really clear sense of how we're going to track. Now, when you actually set goals, and I've got some notes here, which is why I'm going to look to the side because I got my clipboard on here. You probably heard this is probably in some like corporate job that you had before you decided corporate jobs suck and then you started your own business. But you probably heard of SMART goals. And I'm going to talk a little bit about SMART goals just because it's it's classic, it's corny, um, but it's very right on. If I haven't found something else that just says it so, like, explicitly when we're looking to set goals. So SMART goal stands for specific, so you wanna have a specific goal. Measurable, that's the M, something that you can measure. Achievable, obviously. something that feels like it's achievable and doable, relevant, and time bound. So I like to set, ideally, I know that things change so much, and you may be a completely, we also have very different personality types. So, um, I don't ever do anything more than a 3-year plan because even that feels a little bit like things in a year for me will change so much. Um, Both just kind of in life, look like what just happened the last couple years for all of us, that was stuff happens, that we things that surprise us, good and bad. And then there's also just like sometimes personality wise, we just want to do something different, And so I try not to lock myself into like 5-year goals, even three feels like a lot. Um, I personally tend to focus on like 18 months at a time because I feel like 18 months is like, that's a good chunk of time to get a lot of stuff done. Um, but it's also not so short. I find that like my projects that I think I can get done in 3 months almost never get done in 3 months. This always takes, like, you know, double the time that I think that it's gonna take, even with a team. So I've learned that my, like, quarterly goals, I often think I can get a lot more done in a quarter than I can, but I can get a lot done in a year or 18 months. And so I'm a big fan of once a quarter, like, the cadence of goal setting, um, for me as an ideal is, like, once a quarter. Usually, like, about the beginning of the quarter, either solo, like a CEO meeting with yourself or with your team, totally up to you. You sit down and you set the goals for the quarter, and then, once a year, you have the goals for the year or for the next 18 months. And those goals, they need a couple things. Besides being SMART goals, we need to make sure that number 1, we have a purpose for all of the goals. So, just like everything you already have in your business, like if we're putting together a new online program, we should be able to easily communicate what the purpose is. Where is, because everything in your business should exist holistically. And I like to kind of orient myself for like what is the top down goal financially, or some people have a goal of how many people they want to help, how many people they want to treat, how many people they want in a course, how many products you want in a product line or something like that. So align yourself with kind of the top down goals. Um, and that there's anything that's new, like a new offer, a new course, a new team member, what is the purpose for that person, for that, you should be able to, like, kind of write that down when you're doing your goals. Um, we need to set a timeline. Like, when would you like to, ideally, when would you like to achieve that goal? And you can even get really granular and start breaking that down into, like, weekly, biweekly, monthly tasks that need to happen, um, or need to get delegated in order to make that goal a reality. And then the last thing that we want when we're putting the goals together is, what's a system of accountability and rewards? So, some people are kind of like, carrot or stick people. I tend to be more of a carrot. So I like to think, if I hit milestones, what are the what are the rewards that I'm going to get for doing that? And that helps me stay motivated for getting the writing the goals down and then staying true to creating the goals. And one thing I will say too is, sometimes, and this is kind of like the other side of goal setting, is this feeling that comes up where we like, because I wrote it down, I have to do it because I set it up as a goal because it's something I wanted to do this quarter, this year, the next 18 months. I want to give you permission, and you don't need to get permission from me. I want you to feel empowered. Give yourself permission, have your own permission to delete things from your list too, to check in, to do soul searching, to learn more information. Everybody is doing a summit or a webinar or something like that. Everyone is started a TikTok channel. There is like something that you put on your list. I'm like, oh, we really, we need to do this, or I need to have this person on my team. Um, just because it's on your list, you have the power to look through your list and say, "You know what? It's a good enough reason to just say, I don't really wanna do this anymore." It's not sitting like, what's on that list should feel like a yes. It should feel exciting to add that to your business. It should feel exciting to step into that goal, whether that is in a new social media or running a live event. Yeah, there's lots of people running live events, and I mean, like, live in-person events. I could easily look around and say, "Oh, that's what we have to do in our business." I would hate that because 'cause I'm an introvert. I don't wanna be, like, with a bunch of people in person and having to be, like, the face of all of it and run all of it, just like people who are doing lots of retreats. Can you make money in retreats? Yes. Does it fit with the business? Yes. Is that something I wanna do? No. You know how many times I put retreats on my goal list? Lots, back in the day. Before I was like, "You know what? This is probably something that I don't really wanna do." If you don't really wanna do it, I don't think it's gonna be super successful in pushing the needle forward for your business. So, all of this is to say, give yourself permission to delete things. Just because it goes on the goal list doesn't mean that you have to do every single thing. We're talking purpose, align, gives you a good feeling in your gut, gives you that kind of intuitive feeling like, yes, I think this is going to be a good needle mover for our business. That's what I'm measuring goals for too. So you've got like the practical, you got the smart goals and the accountability, but we want to always be like adjusting based on how we feel. You know, you may said the lots of times I've said, I want to get something done in this quarter. A couple weeks into the quarter, look and just say, that's just doesn't really feel like a priority anymore because something else has become more apparent. And that's for me is like why I don't always set up like 3-year goals or 2-year goals or anything. Like I like quarterly goals and I like having just kind of a bigger picture vision for what I want the year or 18 months to look like. But I'm always recalibrating the list too. So don't be afraid to recalibrate. The last thing I want to leave you with here too, just so we don't get too dense into goal setting, is just a little sense of like when I'm setting goals, what kind of categories, excuse me, what kind of categories I'm looking to fill in terms of goals. And I just have 4 kind of blanket categories. So whether this is quarterly, monthly, every week you sit down and you just are kind of assessing your goals and readjusting as needed. 4 categories that I see. Number 1 is process, and I'm just going to use process as like a catch-all term for new things that you're creating. So that process could be the process of starting a podcast. It could be the process of this is like additive things to the business. So like we're in the process of creating an online program. That's what I'm actively doing right now. We're in the process of launching a summit. So this is kind of process driven, bigger projects. Might take multiple weeks or multiple months in order to create them, but they all have a purpose and they're additive things to the business. So that's kind of one category is like, what are your process goals? Then you have marketing goals. So that's around like numbers that you're trying to hit, subscribers, people to your mailing list. Like this is all the kind of trackable analytics on the marketing side. Then we have people. That could be anything from hiring goals to team building exercises to creating a better like onboarding process or sales, doing kind of like anything that has to do with the people and people resources on your team. And then the last one is goals around operations. So that could be kind of like cutting your like expenses. It could be hiring an accountant or having a new accountant. That could be like trademarking things for intellectual property. It could be anything that kind of falls under the operations. So that's process, marketing, people, and operations. So start with those 4 quadrants and just open up a piece of paper, put it in 4, put the headers, and then just start writing out some things that you like to work on in each of those sectors. And then from there, I like to look and see, because that's kind of a brain dump. You don't have to think about hierarchy at this point. You're just filling out different sections. I like to look and I like to see, are there any of the quadrants that are just like way more active than the others? There's been some seasons where it's been really people focused. Oh my God, we need a this, we need a podcast producer, we need another branding specialist, we need a copywriter, we need a virtual assistant. So there's been seasons where there's been lots of work and not enough staff, not a big enough team, or I was feeling overwhelmed because of, we don't have a project manager, or I'm kind of missing core pieces in our team to make it function. So there's been seasons where it's been really heavy on the people. Right now, it's really heavy on the process. There's a lot of like things that I want to add to the business right now. Funnels and Facebook ads um and a new online course for podcasting. So there's a lot of stuff that I need to and want to create. So I would look and see like where is this kind of unbalanced? Like is a lot of the energy kind of moving to one side of the one quadrant versus the other? Because then you have a good sense of like where a lot of your time and resources need to go. And then I like to go in the different quadrants and see like out of everything written in there, can I circle a couple things that feel like a top priority? Just like the things like if I had that in place sooner rather than later, they feel like there's more urgency there. And then that gives you a good sense of what those top priorities are. And the other ones can kind of be put in to a time frame over the next, 6 months, 9, 12. But you'll be able to see pretty quickly which are the first ones to start with. Uh, anyway, that is kind of wrapping up for me goal setting around the business. Any questions that you have, please bring them into the group and don't hesitate to ask. And make sure that you've got your goals set down. Make sure you set up time, setting up a time that you have regularly, some kind of CEO date, if it's, once a week or once a month, at the bare minimum, every quarter, sit down, spend a couple hours, dig into your numbers, dig into your goals, sit also with your a business intuitive sense in your gut, what feels right, what feels exciting to work on, and make sure that those goals are smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Make sure there's a purpose for everything. Make sure that you know what your accountability is going to be and rewards for when you hit those milestones. And you'll be well on your way to hitting some of those goals in the near future. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great Monday and have an awesome day. Bye.